Well, this is our first ever episode of Coaches on Zoom drinking coffee, and I couldn't think of two more perfect people to spend time with on this first episode than my friends Paul and Andrea. Thanks for being here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing whatever happens on this first episode.
I guess we're
Hi
going to find
there.
out, huh?
We're on, so feel free to hop in. The joys of a conversation on Zoom.
So if we sit here and don't say a word, he has to talk the whole time, right, Andrew?
Yes.
I want to.
I actually brought a topic.
You did.
Well, then let's hear it.
Let's hear it. And also, you know, I shouldn't assume that I know a whole lot about either of you, even though we've had lots of conversations. They typically are conversations that are sort of, you know, what's going on at this moment in our coaching personal lives. But we haven't spent a lot of time getting to know each other too much. So maybe, Andrea, if you don't mind, if we started by actually like getting to know a little bit more about each of you and your backstories, and then we'll dive into whatever comes up in conversation.
Sure. Give me a curious question. Get me started somewhere.
So, you know, tell me what you were doing before you started coaching.
What I was doing before I started coaching. Well, I say that I have been coaching all my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little kid. And I think you're asking what I was doing before. I was the technical coach, technically certified and accredited. Before that, if I really got to know what this industry was and putting a name to it, I was working in HR in a strategic role, and I was looking for the next career move. And I also had an issue that I needed somebody to solve it with. So I became first a client, a coachee. Somebody recommended a coach that I have worked with before, and we got to know each other. And I didn't know that she was doing this kind of work. So I reached out to her and I said, so call out to Teresa. I said, Teresa, would you mind? I would like to be your client, and because I need help. I was stuck in my career, especially with my boss. So I needed some different perspective, and she helped me out. And through that experience, and after that, finding out that there's an industry and a career that I can make out of being a coach, then I went on the path of becoming one. That's how it started for me.
That's very cool. Client to coach to guru, working with engineers now. What led to the specialty in working with engineers?
Engineers found me. So that's how I say the story, and that's what my clients subscribe to. Is when I was learning to become a coach, I asked a few friends. As I said, I was working in HR, so I had high expectations that my HR friends will just get on with, oh yeah, coaching, yes, I would love to be a client. And interestingly, none of my HR friends raised their hands to be one, or not at the beginning. However, my engineering friends did. So I started asking them around of, why did you choose to be a client, and what drew you to coaching? And their answer was awesome. They said, I had no idea about coaching. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't choose it because I wanted to do anything with it. I just wanted to hang out with you and wanted to work with you. For your perspective and what they have known of me until that point, I've been one secret. I've been part of an underground change movement within the corporate world. And in that movement, there were a lot of engineers. So those are the engineers who raised their hands and wanted to become a client of mine.
Well, I can't not ask a little bit about that before we get to Paul. So what does an underground change group look like, and what's it trying to change?
Yeah. So I believe, talking to other underground change group members from other companies, that every company has those, I call it the top 5% on the bell curve, who are the early adopters, who get it, who get the vision, who get the mission, who have the skills, who also have the network to make it spread and could tip over the bell curve. However, they have to work underground because of the gap between the leadership not getting it and the early adopters getting it earlier than the leadership. So I posted something. I'm a writer, so I wrote something on the internal platform, and an engineer showed up in my cubicle. Just looked me up and showed up, wanted to talk to me, and then invited me into this. So Steve, call out to you, thanks. And what about it? I think it's the people who are looking for the tribe, those who think like them, who belong together, who get it earlier, and who want to have the forward-moving, deep discussions about how we implement the mission and the change that is being pushed down from the top.
Fascinating. Boy, I wish I had had this conversation early in my career, because I was always one of those 5%ers, but I chose to go above ground, and that never worked very well for me. So that underground movement probably would have been a much better strategy for me. Fascinating. So that makes a lot of sense in your ability now to serve and attract and support those kinds of people in your coaching practice. Makes total sense. Very cool.
She has a thing in her coaching contract. It comes in a tape cassette, and it comes to you and it says, should you choose to take this coaching agreement, this say yes, and this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
I use that line, not that one. If you choose to accept, this mission a lot, actually. Thanks, Paul. Because it is an option. I propose that, and I'm going for, this is an impossible right now, but if you choose to partner with me, we'll make it possible. That's the cool thing about engineers, that they're also pretty funny.
Yeah. I love it. So Paul, maybe first tell me the story of how you and Andrea got connected.
Oh, doing some work with Seattle, not Seattle Coach, but Go Coach, and we were pulling in coaches. Actually, it's how you and I got connected, I think.
It is, yeah.
And I was ecstatic with the fact that somebody in the Seattle area finally, because everybody was actually on the east side, on that other side of the country, or way up in the heck in Canada somewhere.
Imagine that.
And so it was just kind of super cool to have somebody local. Got connected, and maybe she tapped into my engineer part of my brain or something, and that's why we became really fast, easy friends at that point.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's pretty much the answer.
And today, where do we find you, and who do we find you serving today in your coaching practice?
I have a kind of a range right now, from executives to people out of Washington, women in need, and actually just businesses that just want to have happier, better places to work. It's funny, the shirt at a place where I just went in today they gave me a bad time because it says, you know, some days you're Kirk, some days you're a red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, isn't that a tough thing during this time? I says, well, it depends on if you want to have the mindset of being Kirk versus a red shirt, which is that we'll call it that subversive underground to follow that current. And maybe that's why we get along so well.
Yeah.
But I actually ended up in your place for the longest time too, where I kept things above ground and just let it out there. And I can say for an easy 3 to 4 years, that actually worked well against me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the environment that I was in, the value for the people and stuff like that, which is one of my things I actually care about, definitely kept me brushed off out of the leadership space.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually that changed and I actually got to be just myself in that space.
Yeah.
But for sure, at one point that worked against me. And unfortunately, the underground work there was definitely not in the space that I was willing to go to. It had a nefarious group involved. Whereas the honorable underground, yes, that would have been well worth it.
Yeah, I guess they don't market themselves for a reason as being down there.
Right. But the belonging thing is the cool part of it. I mean, when you think about it, the tribe that we connect with, it's usually because we have the commonality and we look out for each other in that. You know, the fact that, you know, Andrea sits there and she's at her desk, she writes a thing out and somebody shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Are we allowed to talk?
So, yeah, you know.
That's cool. You are somebody who throws the L word around LinkedIn, the love word, in a very open and direct way, and it engages a lot of people in conversation. So where has that come from in terms of how you've developed your coaching approach and the way you serve your business clients?
I just think there's not enough of it. I mean, let's just face it. Our work is control and fear. You know, we're going to get in trouble. We're not going to be able to make the mortgage. I mean, everything that comes with that. And the fact of the matter is when we come together, we're a lot better. And that's really out of love. You can come together out of purpose, but the second there's a threat, you can't anchor in purpose like you can in love. You know, purpose might give you, I need to get this done. I'm going to get this done, whatever. Love is the stuff that is the game changer. That's the, I got your back, you got mine. You know, you don't die for a purpose. You die for somebody else. You know, you know. I noticed. I said that to somebody once. It's just, you know, it's really simple. You'll die for each other. You'll join another's cause, or you'll be a mercenary. And one of those can be bought. But then somebody said, well, do you have to say die for each other? Okay, you'll go to the end of the earth for each other. Right. If that's the case. But we're neurobiologically hardwired for that. And just, you know, you can go into the science part of it and get lost. And then I'd have to talk to Andrea because I need an engineer mindset to help me out of it. But the experiential side of it is we can't avoid that. We are looking to belong. We're looking for somebody that we can contribute to that will also care for us in the failures, the successes, everything about us. And if we don't have that, we're just in fear. Fear sucks.
Yeah, I remember there's a video online, Simon Sinek video with his book, Leaders Eat Last, where he talks about the research he did working with the military and trying to understand their behaviors, right? And the line of, I do it for you because I know you would do it for me, you know, being at the foundation of what drives the way that they train and behave, super powerful. And yeah, I mean, the fact that you're trying to infuse that into corporate cultures is incredibly important, it would seem, at this time.
And it's, yeah, if we think about our typical coronavirus stuff right now, we found out how much we really needed each other, despite the fact that we were completely distracted with either the tasks, the processes, or the technology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Eliza just had a Zoom meeting she plays this game on her phone. It's a solitaire game, but you play it as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually all, just because of the way things are, decided that they would have a Zoom meeting together. And so she got to experience that belonging in a whole different realm, as opposed to somebody who's just a contributing teammate on this little game, which if we look at business, you're either a contributing teammate in this game of this business, or, oh my gosh, this makes me think of Sam Sen, or you're actually company. And Sam and I were talking the other day, and it's like, if you're a company, and you're like, if you were coming up to Seattle, we're actually gonna have that coffee in person. Mm-hmm. We'd go pick the best coffee shop to go to hang out together at, and to show up and be introduced, and to have the graces and the reception and everything involved in it, because you're company. And at that point, that's the differentiation between being a business and company, or an organization and company. Even that language says, I'm going to treat you as someone who belongs, who I'm welcoming and receiving into the state. And so I kind of look at it that way.
I love being in your company. That makes a lot of sense right now.
And it's a difference. It's a whole different mindset. Mm-hmm. I mean, you rewrite, and we've left that. I mean, even when we're coaching, all we're trying to do is create that moment between us that actually helps somebody get to that better place. Mm-hmm. Walt Brown has this coaching thing where he said, what is coaching? Oh, it's two lives working on one. Mm-hmm. So I mean, all I can think of is exactly what Andrea just talked about there, which was, we're going to do this. I called somebody because I needed another person to get to this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, heck, I can't even, and I know we're not coaching right now, by the way, but just even, I don't know how many times just being in like a Zoom presence with you guys has been the best thing on earth.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking as you were describing what is coaching. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation where it was the two of you really helping serve me around, and I was sharing a story that had happened to me, that kind of led me to this coaching thing that I'm doing now. And you both had a reaction to it that actually kind of like finally cemented what it was that I was meant to be doing, which is kind of funny for me to say, because I've felt like I've been on a path for a long time, but I just didn't know how to communicate it, or didn't know how it landed for people. So it was like three of us working, or two of you working for
hey,
my benefit.
For the record, it took two of us, Andrea.
It did. and it took a couple of weeks after that to wrestle it to the ground. But I think we're there, yeah.
Well, I call that him being the smarter than we are, because he took the two of us' wisdom and knowledge and skills, not just one person. So I always think exponentially. So the more people you have around you, and the more you pull in, and the more you have in the company, that's my takeaway from today, and you love being in their company, that's when things happen. Things just show up that probably been lurking around and walking around you, or in your head.
In his underground.
Mm-hmm. My underground.
Yeah, your voices were speaking to you. You just didn't listen to them.
Yeah.
For being in that company,
you said something there, really thing. It's the people you love being around. Mm-hmm. You love their company. And when we get into that space, our walls drop. And we then can even maybe hear ourselves in our own dream, because we just shared it with somebody who was eager to hear it.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because, that conversation we had a couple of weeks ago was about a conference that I had attended, right, where I'd seen, experts from a whole bunch of different fields presenting, and how it kind of clicked something for me. but in the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about in my previous career to that. I actually used to organize coaches conferences. I probably organized about 10 coaches conferences in my career, earlier in my career, where I'd curate really interesting guest speakers, and I'd bring coaches together from different sports, and we'd really try to disrupt thinking and habitual ways of doing things. And I was the one coordinating those. And then it was actually being on the other side of it at this conference in New York City that I had the aha that, oh, I can do that. And it's so funny because the last 2 weeks I've been really kind of just seeing how this is all making so much more sense now, right? It's that curating these opportunities to bring different perspectives together, and then through that creating an even higher level insight. And so this show came about like literally a week ago from that light going on that, oh, what I actually need to do is to do that in a virtual sense. And how do I bring thousands of coaches from around the world together to have these conversations, to share different perspectives and ideas, so that we kind of create an even higher level insights through their, the mix of different backgrounds that we all bring to these conversations. So thank you for helping me get to that, because it made a huge difference 2 weeks ago. It was like your reaction to me telling a story that I've told lots of times was like, wow, okay, now I get that I'm on the right track here.
I don't know what to say. That was so crazy cool.
Yeah, well, it was, and it's been a game-changing thing for me in the last 2 weeks to to get that clarity. And I think in coaching, this is what we do with our clients, right? It's like they've got all this stuff, as Andrea said, that they know, right? But what we need to do is kind of just clear away some of the clouds and the clutter, so that they can see it for themselves, because they have to own it, right? We're not advising, we're not consulting, we're coaching. And it's a very different art to help people get to their own understandings and their own insights, so that they can own the behavior change or whatever it is that they need to do differently.
That's a lot. It's a whole different space. It's a very the art part, the human art stuff that goes into play. It could be just waiting that extra, maybe even minute, and just letting something sit. It could be just like you Florida us. And it was like, whoa, that's freaking cool. And then to realize that, and for me, it was just like, oh my God, this is so cool with somebody. Go for it, go. And you just want it to happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what was going through me on that. Andrea?
I'm sitting here thinking you must be so proud of yourself, Andrew. The past 2 weeks, you've done not just the work, but something opened up, a new side of you. As I was asking you 2 days ago, what's that side of you? So new sides are showing up. I think new voices are showing up in your head, in your heart, and are giving a voice to the voices that maybe you pushed underground and unconscious. So it's beautiful, yeah, to have those up. And yes, I was also touched by what you said and how you said it, but it was the energy, the way you said it, that went straight to my heart. And I knew that there was something more there. And I think that is what we do as coaches, is we really listen to each other. We listen to our clients. So when I was a client, and after that I had another coach, because I had my transformational moment with my mother, and that coach from back home from Europe with one question. He changed, I keep telling him, he changed my whole relationship with my mother. So a little bit of, with one recognition for you, another coach for me with one question just blew me out of the water.
Okay, I want to know what the question was. What's the question? Or I should say, are you willing to share the question?
Sure. I just have to put it then in a context. So and maybe it's worth sharing because maybe others have a relationship with their parents too. So my story is that I left home early as a teenager from Europe. I came to the US with $100 in a backpack, and I told my parents I'm going to be here for 3 months for the summer. And I haven't returned. Well, I went and visited, but for sure for 6 years after that, I haven't returned. And that put a strain on my relationship with my mother, especially my mother. She had a really hard time growing up with her mother. So I got to work on as a coach, figure out what was going on with her. And now I know that she was just following a pattern that she was given. So again, my relationship with my mother was to a point where I was desperately wanting to help her. So my visit back home was about trying to buy her things to make her life better. And I bought her a refrigerator, but I didn't tell her because I wanted it to be a surprise. And when it showed up, my mother, of course, just like, because I didn't tell her and I committed the error of disrespecting her, she broke down. So instead of being super happy, she was the opposite. And that broke me down to the point like I don't know what else to do. And so I called up my coach who need to see you, and he was gracious. He came right away from the other side of the town. And I remember he's like, okay, before we talk, we have to go and buy a pen and paper. So we went and bought a notebook and a pen. And I was like, why are we doing this? What's happening? So then we sat down and he drew a circle, and then he asked me to fill in that circle what's in my heart right now towards my mother. What are the feelings that I have towards my mother? And that was the question. So I filled in, I thought really nicely, made it like a pie chart. And he looked at it and he said, there's no love here. Do you not love your mother? And that was the question for me, that, of course I do. So I had to take some other things out of there so I can put that in.
Wow.
Thank you for answering the question.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Wow.
So after that, the real work started of figuring out why and how will I put the love back, and what are the elements that I want to take out. That I had to clean my own heart of the things that felt like a wall that I have created between the two of us. Mm-hmm. So for those who are listening and they have maybe parents or siblings that they don't speak with, and they are away in heart, physically too, they distance themselves. What I have to say is that I have thrown everything out that I knew about my mother, and I started with a blank piece of paper, just like my coach. I started to get to know her as a person, as an individual, as a human being. And I also assumed that she doesn't know me. So I showed up like that and with a lot of love. And that's what then transformed our relationship.
Mm. Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow. One question.
One question from the right company.
Well, I know Andrea had a topic to talk about, but this feels like the right place to tie a bow around this conversation. I know that we'll be back, and I know each of you will be back for many more episodes of the show and many more powerful conversations. So I'm incredibly grateful for having the two of you in my life and for our opportunity to interact on a regular basis as we do, and for your graciousness today to share your stories with me and with the audience. So thank you, and I love you both, and it's great to have you here.
Great to be in the presence of both of you too. Thank you.
Take care, stay safe, take care of your families, and we'll talk soon.
Yes. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.